Launching a profitable podcast, marketing masterclass level. Welcome to another exciting conversation that is going to take place at this moment. And as you're listening, I know you're wondering, how can I launch a profitable podcast? I just don't want to launch a podcast. I want to launch a profitable podcast. And I've been doing the research and listening to you and understanding what you need. That's why I'm sure you're excited to see something like this today, because this is an episode that is specifically focused on giving you the information on how your podcast could be in that position to have a high level marketing visibility approach. And as you know, this is the We Don't Play podcast, and there's so much that I'm grateful to God for that has allowed me to create content for you for this long. Never would I have thought in a million years that I would be having over 600 episodes to share with you. And every time I say that, I'm like, it sounds normal, but it's not normal, because that is consistency. And my goal is to hit 700 before we get to August. And the benchmark I've put for myself is very high. So I want to make sure that I'm delivering, I'm being consistent, and I'm here. Because podcasting is a decision. I'll say that again. Podcasting is a decision. It's a decision from the beginning. It doesn't stop. Just like you won't stop talking, just like you won't stop thinking, just like you won't stop listening to something that's going to benefit you. You won't stop thriving. You won't stop being you. That's the same way if you start a podcast, you shouldn't stop, because a podcast is a documentation of technically your life, your story, your connections with people. This is a deep layer of understanding. Think about it this way. Listening to someone and connecting with them, you've never talked to them, you've never heard them before, or you've never met them before, but now you know them because you've heard them before. Now, that's where profit comes in. And whenever we hear profit, yeah, it can be a profitable podcast. And a lot of people, when they hear profit, this is what they think. Which is fair, which is possible, which is good. But if I'm thinking about profitability, it should start like this. Because that's an idea. You start off with an idea. When you're launching something, it starts off from the idea. So when you want to launch a profitable podcast, the idea of the profit is directly proportional to the impact. Hey, Philip. Hey, Sandy. Thanks for being here today. So, and hey, Kim. Welcome too. So when you look at it like this, launching a podcast doesn't just start from, I have a podcast. Listen to my podcast. Everybody has a podcast now. That's great. But the goal of your podcast is to solve a need. That's why it's profitable. You're in business because you are solving a need. I read somewhere and it said that, welcome V, glad to see you, Happy New Year, it's been a while. Hey Sam, welcome too. I saw this somewhere. Yes, and I'll share this with you. It's easier to start a business than it is to start a podcast. Let me say it better. It's easier to sustain a business than it is to sustain a podcast. You may be wondering how. This is how. When you create a podcast that is directly proportional to impact, it means that your impact is starting from the root. And what is the root? You hear the word root? Technically, SEO-wise, marketing-wise, business-wise, when you hear root, when it comes to the internet, the root is the domain. Hey V, welcome. It's the domain. And the domain is a property that you own, that you paid for, that you have access to, that you administer, that you renew every year or every other year. So when you're launching a profitable podcast, it doesn't start off with your YouTube podcast show. It starts off with the idea of creating a website that is going to take the place of your podcast so that it has a space to grow by itself within its property, within its domain, without you having to depend on Apple, Spotify, and all the other platforms that you don't own. Yes, you want to be on those platforms. Yes, you want to be listened to on those platforms. Yes, it's important to be there. Yes, that's the way it's supposed to be done. But if you don't have a website that's connected back, and the website that I click on your podcast is taking me to a Buzzsprout landing page, or a Libsyn landing page, or a Spotify for Creators landing page, or a landing page that is like Acast, there are so many landing pages that you can access because these podcast platforms are great. But the thing is, they give you I can call it quote unquote a subdomain. You see, the word domain is still in the context. They give you a link, just to make it easier. They give you a link that is going to be used to access your podcast show if you don't have a website. So they have a website for themselves, and they also have a website for you. But why don't you have a website for you? That's a big question. So when you're launching a profitable podcast, it's going to start off from there, because when you have a profitable podcast, it means that you have a podcast show that has a website that can also collect emails, capture emails. Because of what good is it for you to have 1 million downloads and no contacts? That's a one-way conversation. Because if you're listening to my show and it's 1 million downloads, it's 100 downloads, it's one download, and that download usually takes between 30 to 60 seconds to count as a download, right? So when you hear, I got how many downloads? Downloads is technically how many seconds it takes for someone to download. Just like when you download an episode, or you download an MP3, or you download a PDF. So if it takes you that amount of time to download, and this file is 6 megabytes or 6 gigabytes, it's going to take you a specific time to download. Now, in podcast context, when you download something, it's because when you have a podcast, it's coming from an RSS feed, a really simple syndication feed. So this feed is coming off of an MP3 that you uploaded on a platform that is hosted on a software. Welcome, Tiffany. So you're creating content for someone who is going to listen to your podcast on a device that they listen to other podcasts like yours. So they're not listening to your podcast on your website. So don't think that you're getting a website for people to listen to your podcast on your website. The whole idea of having a podcast for your website is so that when you're linking to your website from your podcast, you have a place that you can track from. Because you're tracking from the analytics, which is great, but you also got to track from your website too. My podcast is called WeDon'tPlayPodcast.com. Specifically because if somebody's going to listen to the podcast show, there has to be a corresponding link. So you have to think about your podcast as an entity. That's separate from the business, which is separate from the podcast within its vertical. So I'm not going to mesh two entities into one when they could both live independently and simultaneously. Because most times we have a podcast, we want to put the podcast link on our website and this is my website /podcast. Okay, that's great, but that's one page. Let's say you have 100 episodes and it's an RSS feed. Why do you have one page that's in an iframe for 100 episodes when you could have 100 links to the same episode or to the same podcast show? Because you have it connected back within a domain property level, which equals a website. So when you have a property domain or a domain property, you're creating capacity because you're building capacity. The only way to create capacity is by building it. And even if you reverse it, the only way to build capacity is to create it. And the capacity you're creating is the number of episodes that you're publishing, right? You have to take it seriously. You may say, I don't feel like doing an episode today. I don't feel like doing today. I don't feel like doing it today. Eventually, you won't feel like doing it at all. And that's totally fine. Nobody is forcing you to do it. Nobody is telling you should do it. But when that consistently pays off, and when that consistency itself pays off, in a year, in 2 years, in 5 years, in 10 years, that's a great investment. Just like an index fund, just like a credit report, just like a portfolio. It's going to grow over time. And you want it to grow over time because over time, you're building it. Even your domain is growing over time. It's building capacity. Because if you bought that domain in 2001, we're in 2026. So you have 25 years of domain history. So if you look at it like that, it's different. TikTok, we all know TikTok came in 2016. I used to be on TikTok when it was called Musical.ly. And now it's TikTok. But if you go to TikTok.com, TikTok was first registered in 1996. And we're in 2026. So when you start thinking about capacity, think about it like Titanic. Think about it like an iceberg. Everybody's going to listen to your podcast, download it, stream it. Great. That's fun. All, more power to you. Welcome, Shanice and Karen and Mustafa. The goal is to create a consistent show that can build capacity that will help your business gain momentum. Because when you start creating content that have keywords in the title, keywords in the description, keywords in the URL, keywords in the image cover, keywords in your blog, keywords in your speech, in your show notes, in your transcript, and those are the words that you're vocalizing that somebody is asking Siri, asking ChatGPT, asking Perplexity, and you're the one that's receiving that signal back because you've said the word or the keyword to the point where you're not saying it in a very vague way, you're saying it in a very constructive way. And because you're making constructive sentences, you're building that capacity because you're building within episodes. Welcome, Cynthia. So you're thinking about it from, how can I launch a profitable podcast? The first goal is to think about my technical setup. Don't think about the microphone. Don't think about all these things. They will come. You can use your phone voice memo app. You can use riverside.com. These are free platforms you can use, right? So it's not a matter of how do I record. It's a matter of what am I going to say and what are they going to listen to. Why you're listening to this is because it came out of research. I'm not just going to talk about something that I didn't get research or get information from, because there's no way I can be speaking something that was not intended to be listened to. So Launching a profitable podcast is very important in 2026 when you consider the technical setup first. When you build a website that is going to maintain and sustain your show, and that show is connected to a website. So let's say you have a website that's a company, parent company website, because we've talked about local businesses, regional businesses, national businesses, and international businesses. Now you have everything together. The next step is, now how do I make this profitable? You already have a business. The podcast is a vertical. Just like you want to run ads, just like you want to run a campaign, the podcast is still within the same domain. It's still within the same plane, the same space, the same scope. The only difference is that your podcast is expandable and it's organic and it's fresh. If you look at a website has a blog, if it does. And a blog is updated whenever it's republished or when it's published. So you have a last modified date and you have a last published date. So when you have two dates in your schema, it means that you have kind of like a yin-yang effect, right? Or your back wheel of the car and your front two wheels of the car, your back two wheels of the car. So you're using your podcast to be profitable because you're driving this car everywhere that you go. And everywhere that you go, people are not either going to look at your car or they're going to look at your car. If they look at your car, they'll like your car and they'll want to know what the car is. And then they'll go and do research and say, oh, I like that car. Let me go check that car out. You didn't have to say much. You just have to be within their space because that's where they already are. So if somebody's already typing and every day they're looking for food recipes or looking for real estate tips or looking for social media trends or looking for marketing news, and you keep showing up within that space that they keep looking for you or looking for what you talk about, then eventually they'll connect with you because they'll give you a chance to tell them what you think about what they're asking. So if you answer the question in a way that they would like to hear, then you're the person of interest to their intent. So when you keep showing up for episodes that they keep searching for because you're creating a loop, you're creating a cycle, you're creating a content loop, then it means that your podcast now becomes really profitable because you have a niche, you have an audience, you have a goal, you have a plan, you have a schedule. When you have a podcast, like I mentioned, the blog, it's an XML file. That's an expandable markup language file. In other words, it is like a floppy disk or a flash drive or a hard drive. You slot it in and all the results come out. All the things that you have come out. Welcome, Michaela. All the results that come out are results that you see based on search intent that was discovered and placed within a file directory. I can call it that because it's really a file directory because it's a library of content. You posted this at this day, this time, this day, this time, this day, this time. Who's the author? You. Who's the podcast show? You. This and that. Everything is interconnected. Welcome, Zeus. So all these things that you're putting together and all these things that you're using together are all compounding. So when you hit publish on a podcast show, even if you hit save on a podcast dashboard, you've refreshed the cycle. Let's say you want to change the podcast cover and you will have a new photo shoot and you want to do something new and you change that. If you change that cover, it's changing the whole show. It's kind of like a snowball effect. It's one to many. So if you have 100 episodes and you have one podcast cover, when you replace that one podcast cover, it replaces the 100 episodes that you published that had the same cover, now with a new one, updated. So you've created a new cover that people can still see the same episode that they saw yesterday with the new cover today. And that has refreshed the whole mess, the whole cycle, the whole platform. So when you look at it from turning it from renovation to innovation, it takes a whole new step. Because now when you're marketing, the whole idea of marketing or search engine marketing is to place yourself on a map that allows people to see your business thrive, that allows them to connect with you because now you have a profitable connection. Profitable connections on Google, on ChatGPT, on Siri, these are all good things, right? They're all amazing things. The one thing that you have to think about too is creating a podcast that someone can see and they can value, and they can also see the value in what they can see because you presented it in a way that is actually valuable to the eye, right? Because when you're launching a profitable podcast, you're launching a name, you're launching a logo, you're launching a word, a sentence, a phrase, a mantra, you're launching a swag bag, you're launching a franchise, you're launching a trademark, you're launching something that is very, very sentimental to you. So if it is very sentimental to you, welcome Georgia, and you're looking at all the value propositions for this brand to uniquely work within a market, then your goal as a business owner, your goal as a producer, your goal as a host of a podcast is to look at the keywords that you are presenting to the internet. I'm going to give you guys an example. And I put it on my LinkedIn, but I also put it here. I'm going to put the picture so that you can see it. I'm going to add it from my camera roll. Here we go. Boom. Let me just download it. I have to crop it. Okay, let me crop it. So this is from Google. How do we do this? Okay, yeah, I'll make it better this way. Yeah, this is.
At Arizona State University, we're bringing world-class education from our globally acclaimed faculty to you. Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Learn more at asuonline.asu.edu.
This is actually perfect. So choose, refresh. There we go. Bingo. Okay, there it is. Now we're talking. So refresh your page. If you guys are listening, and you can also type this also if you're listening and you can't see this, go to Google and type in podcasts about Pinterest SEO. And you'll see the We Don't Play podcast show there. Now, I've put the screenshot for you in Clubhouse to look at. So if you just pull down to refresh, you'll see my picture change. And when you hit on my profile, you will see the screenshot. Now, this is AI responding back to a question. There are 4 million podcast shows in the world right now. And one question gave 2 links about Pinterest SEO. And one of the links is the Simple Pin podcast. Shout out to the Simple Pin podcast. And the We Don't Play podcast, which is my podcast. So these 2 were the first 2. And there are others that you can see on the list. But these are the 2 that you can see. So to me, it's like Google saw, because this is Google AI mode. Google saw, okay, let's find a man, let's find a woman, let's find a balance, right? Let's pick out the best out of the 2. You're not going to have 2 men or 2 women because you don't know who's searching, right? The algorithm doesn't know who's searching. It's answering your question based on thought. It's 11:11, by the way. Welcome, Lynette. So when a search is being done, yes, the search may know, okay, the person's age, gender, and everything because you're using analytics. That's great. But in the moment of the search, The most important thing is the query, not the gender. So if the query of the podcast is focusing on launching information, then the most important part of your podcast is not how you're saying it, which is important too, but what you're placing in those text boxes, because you can be saying a lot of good things, but no one will find it because they can't find it within the database. And that's the first rule. If you want a profitable podcast, you don't need 1 million downloads. You could have 30 solid listeners listening to you every week. So that means one person a day is listening to your podcast for 30 days within a month. And you can be profiting off of that as a business if the people that are listening to your episodes are coming to listen to you because of what you're talking about. And that's why you have a high frequency of retention. Then when you go to your analytics and you see that these are the top 5 countries, these are the top 5 states, these are the top 5 cities, and you've broken it down to that point, go to those cities and see. You don't have to fly there. If you live there in one of them, great. Even better, because you can use that as a sample and say, okay, if people love listening to me in this area, what is about this area that they love doing? Are there parks around the area? Are there mountains around the area? Are there whatever it is? I'm just being very wild with the examples I'm giving you. So you can think about this too. When you look at those cities, what are those cities known for? Are they tourist attraction sites? Are there museums? What are the people like? What do they like to do? What are they known for? Once you get to know the social graphics, the psychographics, the demographics, and you're able to know that these people like this, what kind of music they like, which type of artists come to their cities. These are very many questions, and it sounds like a lot of information to load, but these are very essential questions to answer. Because when you start thinking about the profit and the marketing, everything is going to come back together, because when you're launching a show to continue a momentum. Podcast shows would last long when they stand strong. And how do they stand strong? They stand strong by consistency. We have 52 weeks in a year. Already we're at the end of January. We've already covered 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks in January. So if we've covered 4 weeks in January, we still have a couple of weeks to go. But just imagine in the last 4 weeks, you've spent 4 hours. And we have 24 hours in a day. And we've spent 23 days already in the year 2026. So if you're looking at 24 hours times 23 days, that's 552 hours. And I'm asking, if you spend 4 hours out of your 552 hours, that's 0.72% of your time. So when you break it down like that and say, do I have time? Right now it's 11:16 p.m. Central Time. I should be sleeping. But guess what? I'm thinking about tomorrow, tonight. So I know when I'm sleeping, I don't have to think about doing this, because I know I've talked about it, because I know that it has been asked about. So when I see topics and I do research and I get feedback and I'm able to see this, welcome back, Shanice, and I see that more people are creating content to let themselves feel better about the information that they're giving, there has to be a balance between these two. So when you're launching a podcast and think about the profit, first think about what they're finding. What is the information they're getting, and who are they getting it from? I give you an example. When you click on my profile picture right here, you'll see that AI gave a man and a woman suggestions. So they gave a suggestion to one podcast and the other one was mine. So when you look at these two, if perhaps it could be another topic, it could be different. Pinterest by default, people may say, oh yeah, it's an app for women, it's an app for mothers, it's an app for this or that. But the algorithm is saying, hey, we have two options you can choose from, and we have other options available, but here's our first recommendation. And guess what? AI is at a point and a level right now that if AI suggests something to you, you would trust the AI results than you clicking on a result that you think is the best for you. So where we've come to right now is at a point in time that your content has to create a balance. And that balance is by creating content that people are looking for. How do you find this out? Look at your competitors and ask yourself, what are your competitors doing? Because you're not the only one talking about this. I'm not the only one talking about SEO. 100%, 200%, I can bet you I'm not the only person talking about SEO. But guess what? There's a niche. And every podcast has their niche. And we're not here to fight or who's number one, who's number two. There's so much out here. The sky is wide. We can all fly and not even touch each other because we can all dominate in our own spaces. So if you think about how much time you have in a day and how much time you have to record and how much time you have to publish, it's interesting. There's a time I timed myself on how much time it took me to publish an episode from start to finish. And it took me 10 minutes. Now, it's anywhere between 5 to 15, depending on the length of the episode. If it's a long show, of course, it's going to have a longer print. If it's a short show or a short episode, it's going to have a shorter print. So these are things to keep in mind, right? One profitable way to even have a podcast, I'll just give you guys this, which is a nice way of giving you another example in a good way you can try it out for yourself, is timestamps. Timestamps. And when you use timestamps on a podcast, use brackets. You can use the closed brackets, the curved brackets, or the rectangular brackets. Anyone that you choose is fine, but use brackets. Brackets automatically increase your click-through rate by 38%. So when you have a timestamp with a bracket, just like you'd have a timestamp, I'll scratch that. You'd have a bracket that has, let's say, 2026 inside, or ultimate guide, or with pictures or illustration. You'll be able to see it in those different capacities, right? So if you have a bracket in your title, a bracket in your timestamps, that's a profitable way. Why? Because it's a symbol. Just like when you have a currency symbol and you have a price tag to your product on your website, that increases your commercial value by the value that you've given that product. If that product is $9.99, that's a price. If the product is $999, that's a price. If it's $99,000, that's a price. If it's $99 million, that's a price. And you're going to see the dollar sign next to the number. So if you're looking at these symbols, whether it's currency symbols or just grammar in general, everything is going to count because these words are being used as triggers. These triggers are allowing your podcast to grow over time because when you start having a podcast show, your podcast show has an author, and that's you. You being the author, you need a backbone. It's your website. That website is going to need connections. And those connections come from social media. It comes from emails. It comes from connecting with people. If you don't have a podcast show, start one. If you have a podcast show, don't stop one. I said it earlier. It's easier to sustain a business than it is to sustain a podcast. Not many people last past 8 episodes because an episode takes time. And there are no rules. That's the best part. You can have one episode that's 1 minute long and you publish it and you feel comfortable. You feel accomplished. And that's totally fine. You could have a 1 hour episode and knock it out the park and you're great. But guess what? If I did an hour and you did a minute, I have 59 more minutes ahead of you, which means I have 59 more downloads available. Because when people are looking for content, they want to look at the time. Yes, you can have 1 minute episodes. That's great. But at some point, somebody wants a 1 hour episode because the reason why they're even listening to an episode in the first place is because they're actively doing something or passively doing something. So if it's going to take them 30 minutes to do their laundry or 30 minutes to do a walk or an hour to take the trash out or it's going to take them an hour to drive, that's the amount of time they're going to spend with you. So if you are considering their time, they're going to consider your time. That's why I talked about timestamps. Because if you know that you're talking about something that they like and you've covered the timestamps and you know that you're going to spend 5 minutes talking about this and 10 minutes talking about that, then the profit comes in them understanding. It's even profitable to the wise who hear. It's biblical, right? When you think about profit, a word is enough for the wise. So when you think about your content and you're building capacity, your keywords that you speak and your keywords that you type and the keywords that you search with have to create a bond. It has to be a 3-string chord. So when you're looking at it from the consumer side and from the producer side, the middle point is the show. Because ChatGPT is going to recommend your podcast on Apple or Spotify, which is a win. You're not going to say, oh no, put my website instead. No. Google knows Spotify. Google doesn't know your website. But Google knows that Spotify has your podcast. So you still win. It's a win-win-win. It's a win for you. It's a win for Google. And it's a win for the listener. Everybody wins. So if they come to your website from Apple and now they can see your link in the show notes because you put it there, that's now display advertising for you. If you have a profitable podcast and you have an ebook or you have a show or you have a premium or you have a Substack or you have anything, a cookout, whatever it is that you have that is going to allow people to know, hey, it's not just about the topics that we talk about here. We actually have a meetup. We actually have a meet and greet, or we have coffee, a virtual meetup. Whatever it is that you have, that's going to be what people will be looking forward to. And when you mention it vocally and they hear it every time you start your episode, hey guys, before you listen to this episode, make sure you do. They listen to all those things and they're like, oh, okay. I keep hearing that every time because guess what? I may like episode 5 and you might like episode 13 and somebody else might like episode 93 and there are 250 episodes. So if I didn't mention it in one and I missed it in the other and I said it in the other one, then whoever heard the one that had it is the one that understands the information or knows there's something about that. But if I never mention it across the others, how will they know that I have something like this? Sometimes people may not even be reading it. They just click, oh, I like this. Boom. Now let me start doing my work. Or, hey, Alexa, okay, here's the episode about this. And it starts. And that episode kicks off. And they've not looked at your show notes. They've not read a single text. But that text is there for them to save because when they're looking for your episode again, that's where they're going to come back to a reference. So that's why it's so important, because when you use these keywords and these words are placed within your titles, when you have anchor text that's between 4 to 8 words, the sweet spot is 6. You can have those words and people can say, subscribe to my podcast show today. Those are 6 words. Now you put those words and you highlight the text and now you're linking them to your podcast show, your podcast.com. Now, somebody is going to see that somewhere and say, hey, Siri, I'm looking for a podcast about this. Guess which links the API is going to source from? Apple, And if Apple has the link that has a context saying podcast or about something that is related to a topic of interest, it's your link that they're going to source the file from. So it's really not hard. I really want to make this very easy because SEO is not hard. We can all be SEOs. I'm serious. We can all be SEOs. It's just going to be different levels. But as far as the fundamentals and as far as addressing, and it's the same thing. Welcome, Antoinette. It's the same thing because I can express myself and be clear in my communication just like you'd be clear with yours. So if we're having a communication imbalance or inconsistency, that's going to cause friction. But if we're connecting and we're talking, and sometimes we don't even have to talk because our body languages are connecting, then that's because we have a connection. That's the same thing with a podcast. If I write something and I say, launching a profitable podcast, you've been wanting to launch a podcast for a long time. Now that you have a podcast or you want to launch a podcast, this is a podcast of interest or an episode of interest to you because you want to learn how to launch one. Now, because you want to learn how to launch one, you're going to listen to the information because anything that you hear could make a sound. And that sound is going to resound in your ear. And at some point, you're going to be like, that's what I need to do. Because I've been trying to do it this way and I've been doing it the wrong way. Because when people are launching a podcast, most times they go to SoundCloud, they go to YouTube, they go somewhere. But the place you're supposed to go to is Spotify for creators or creators.spotify.com, or go to Libsyn.com or Buzzsprout.com or Acast.com. These are platforms. Go to listennotes.com with 2 N's, listennotes.com, and check it out there and see where you can be on those platforms. Listen Notes is not a podcast directory, by the way. The rest are. It's a listening platform, but you can use that to know where people listen to podcast shows. So these are the things to keep in mind. You can also go to Podlink, Podlink, or pod.link, and you can see it for yourself. It will change everything. And I think they also redirected their page not too long ago. So if it gets redirected, that's fine. But when you hit pod.link, it will take you there. And you can type in any podcast show and you see all the platforms that are available. If your show is not on any of those or all of those, then that's where you need to submit to. Podcasting is free, guys. Just like Clubhouse is free. It's free. Just like your social media is free. It's how you use it that makes a difference. We all use the same platform every day, but some people are cashing out, some people are checking out, some people are logging out. Everyone has their own thing. So, what is yours? When you launch a podcast, how profitable do you want it to be? Because when you're marketing your show, you're marketing based on topics of interest. That's why when you choose a podcast show and you create one, the first thing is to create the name, the description, the genre, because there's a primary genre, there's a secondary genre, there's a tertiary genre. That's the most underrated, if not one of the most. And I talked about something like this close to this yesterday. Welcome Trivia. That as a podcast show, as a podcast host, there's some things that you shouldn't miss. Your genre is going to be one of the most important factors. Because if you're talking real estate and you're in the category of sports, I don't know how far that episode is going to go. Because the genre itself is conflicting with the context. So you have to match, just like when you go to a library. I want to read history. I want to read science. I want to read psychology. I want to read music. It's going to take you to those specific categories because it's a library of information, just like your podcast is. So for every episode that you publish, you have a series of words. Those words are transcribed and those words are, how do I say this? they're vocalized. Because one has I would say like there are two divisions. It's like a dichotomy. Because one side is text, the other side is vocal, right? Even though it's visual, even if you have a video, it's still vocal because you can have a video without audio. So the audio is what is being transcribed into text. And the context of that information is what is being searched on the web. Welcome, Saint. Welcome, Ms. Sharp. So you're creating content as a business owner, as a podcast host, because you want to build momentum. Every episode you drop is equivalent to the number of keywords that you have on your show. And it's very interesting for something like this to happen. And I'll give you an example, like a very quick example. Yeah, I'll give you this example. I wanted to make sure that it's clear. So, shout out to Mel Robbins' podcast, right? I was doing some research earlier today because we were working with a client and we wanted to work on some ideas, and we have something called a visibility score that is very exciting to see because we're able to track and see on a daily basis now how your podcast is doing. And with this new technology, it's a really good way of seeing how do you rank your podcast and where are you seeing yourself. So we had a big spike today, as of yesterday. And it's not in download, it's not in ranking, it's in visibility. Because visibility, let me say it this way, positioning equals sales. Visibility equals downloads. So we grew a visibility because the scale on podcast is from 0 to 10, right? If your visibility is 0.60 or 0.50 or 3.5 or 7.2, think about that like your IMDb rating. That's what I told a client yesterday, and I was like, think about your visibility score like an IMDb rating for a movie. If you saw this movie and this movie is an IMDb rating of 4, I don't think you would want to watch that show or want to entertain that episode or want to engage in that film because you've already seen the IMDb rating. And then maybe you gave it some grace and said, okay, let me watch the trailer. And the trailer didn't really wow you. So you've already reaffirmed that what you already thought about initially was the problem initially because the IMDb rating gave you a foresight of what you were about to experience. So if your podcast show is high, let's say your IMDb rating is a 7 or 8 or a 9, then you might not even want to watch the trailer. You just want to dive into the movie because now you want to keep it spicy. You want to still keep it enjoyable. You want to keep watching it. And it feels like, oh, I want to learn about this because you've built capacity. You want to watch a Marvel movie. You want to watch the Avengers. You want to watch Avatar. Those IMDb ratings are going to be high because people are watching them. So you already know that because it's high, there's high capacity, there's high demand. No one has to tell you that Black Panther is a great movie. It's already happening in your front of your eyes when you watch the news and you see things happening. That's the visibility I'm talking about. So when the visibility is high, you're not thinking about how many downloads, you're thinking about how much reach I am in capacity to become an authority in my topic of conversation. So with the client, we saw the spike and Mel Robbins is at 8 point something. It always goes up and down because it's like stocks. Podcast, it's never one level. You can go to number 3 today, number 4 tomorrow, number 1 the next week. But it's fun because it also allows you to learn the curves and you're able to see the waves too. So our client, he was ranking within a 4.3 point IMDb, which it means that it doesn't mean that your podcast doesn't have value. It's that the value and the exchange of the podcast hasn't been, I can call it quote unquote, accredited by other podcasts within the same battleground. And the battleground I'm talking about is the keywords. Because if I let me say it this way, just to give you another example, an analogy. If me and you talk about a podcast episode about the same topic, we have 30 minutes of talk time. You've talked about it, I've talked about it, and we both have the same title. but we have two different shows. Now, if we've talked about the same thing and we both are good at what we're talking about, it's not that what you're saying is wrong or what I'm saying is wrong. We're both giving value. But yours, because more people know yours, they're going to listen to yours because that's what they know or that's who they know. By default, they're just going to say, I know this person. I'm just going to listen to this person because I trust this person. And I listen to this person when I have time to listen. As opposed to you, who they don't know, but they're yet to know because they don't know what you have yet. So when you look at that analogy, don't think that your podcast is not making sense or it's not good because you have a low IMDb rating in the podcast world. Because if you look at that in movies, that's a whole different connotation. I'm just taking the context of visibility, not performance. When you look at the visibility and it shows that you have that capacity and it grows, it means that your show has that capacity to stay. So the client moved from 4.3 point in that range to a 7 point. And it goes all the way to 10. So people like Mel Robbins, their show is, welcome to Saved by Grace, their show is at 8 point. So think about it like a credit score too. So like the higher you have that score above the threshold at whatever kind of analogy you want to give it to, the higher it is, the more threshold you have and the more capacity you can build. So when you have a podcast and your podcast show, and the reason why that happened is because we were very specific about episodes that are focusing on growth. And you know, the amazing part about this test with this client, they haven't launched an episode since December. Like, I would say like mid-December. Yeah, mid-December. Now we're getting towards February because it's like a hiatus and now you're going back into another season. So when you start looking at it like that, you wonder, the episodes that you did before, they shouldn't be crying for mercy. They shouldn't be like wondering like what's going on. We're not being listened to. They should be available for listening because they're out there, they're published. The only reason why they're not being listened to is the way the title has been structured. Just like a book cover. If you have a book cover that is so, I would say maybe mid, and the content within is fire, no one's going to know how much fire is in that book because they can't see it from the cover. So when you use these analogies I'm giving you, think about your show as the creme de la creme, right? But you got to put a ribbon on it. You got to put something that's going to make people like, wow, this is nice. This is cool. And then it actually meets the eye because beauty is in the eye of the beholder, right? But now when you sustain that beauty, it has to come with capacity. It has to come with some type of agreement. There has to be a balance. So when you're using that type of mindset to build a podcast and launch it, think about what the name is of your show would be. And then think about what you're talking about. If you're talking about relationships, let that be part of your title. If you're talking about food, let that be part of your title. Because if someone's looking for a food channel, anything that's associated with food is going to come up first. Anything associated with marketing is going to show up first. And how is that marketing going to show up? Because it's in the title of the podcast, because it's in the author of the podcast, because it's also within the podcast titles, it's also in the transcripts, it's in the show notes, it's in the anchor text, it's in the links. The URLs would have those links as well. So if it's saying food tips or food guides or ultimate food recipes, and there's a PDF and you're linking that PDF to your website, because there's a link about food recipes that you've anchored within your show notes, then because it's on Apple Podcasts, someone can find that because they're looking for food recipes and say, hey, Siri, I'm looking for food recipes that I can cook for Valentine's for a dinner date, a private date. What are you trying to get? Or I'm trying to get some steak or maybe some broccolini or whatever you want to do with it. And mashed potatoes, whatever you're calling it. And you say, okay, let me look online and see what I can find. If your podcast, if your link, if your context had anything to do with that type of menu, AI and the API is going to find your content and deliver that to the user. And if they find your content exciting, they're going to stay. If I find you interesting, I'm going to stay because I like you. Because I want to be around what I like. People like what they like. You can't force them to like what they don't like. So for them to like you, you have to build that interest. And that takes time. My podcast is going to be 7 years this year. So it takes time. In my first year, second year, I don't even think people were listening to me. Third year, I don't know. But it wasn't as the way it is today. But I was not looking at that. I was looking at building capacity by creating capacity. And how did I create capacity? By creating more episodes, by listening to more people, by talking to more people, by launching more episodes, by publishing more shows, by publishing more content. And that has allowed me to spin this over again. So it's not stopping. And that's the beauty about podcasting, because someone can go back to a show you did in 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024, 2025. My podcast started 2019, now in 2026. So all these things are building. And then the profitable part about a podcast is you can trademark your podcast. And now you can license your podcast. And you can take your podcast to the next level. And you can use your podcast as a way to teach people, or to connect with people, or to train people, or to work with people, or to use it as a way to use it as a product line, or use it as a way to connect with people and build events. Turn that into an event hall, literally. You can do anything you want with your podcast. You can do merch, franchise, improvise, whatever you want to do, it's up to you. But at the end of the day, it has to make sense to you. And it has to make sense to the person that's also going to receive it. So the marketing masterclass today is just to let you know that your podcast can turn into anything that you want it to, that's profitable to the community. And if you're doing it in a way that's going to give people value in exchange of their time, then that's going to give you value over time when you keep showing up for people within the time they have to spend with you. Some people have 10 minutes to spend, 30 minutes to spend, a whole day to spend, no time to spend with you. And that's completely on their watch, on their time. So if you can deliver your time to them and they can deliver their time to you, it's a match. Because a podcast is, okay, I spent 30 minutes today, January 23rd, but you're going to spend 30 minutes January 25th with me. So I've already created time for you that you didn't even know that you had time for initially. But because now you need this information, I'm available for you because I have time to spare, or I have time to download, or I have time to buffer. So a profitable podcast means that you can speak into the future and match with your search intent. And the more you're able to match with people who are searching for things, it's better. We're in January. Before you know it, it's February, Valentine's. Before you know it, we're in April, it's Easter. And it's happening again and again. So the episodes you did last year around this time, what were you talking about that made the most sense? What did you talk about that gave you the most downloads? What did you talk about that gave you the most attention and retention? Which email did you send out that gave you the most feedback? If you did polls, which email gave you the most feedback on your poll? When you did a poll, what was the highest poll rating? Now, when you take that poll, can you take that poll and do something else with it? Because a poll is not just for poll reasons. You can do polls, but that poll is going to change things, right? When you're voting, there are polls. When you're choosing things, there are polls. So if you're going to choose what you want for breakfast, and I give you 4 options and you choose, and the poll and the winner is cereal, or the winner is bread, or the winner is bacon, or the winner is broccoli, whatever it is that you're thinking about, that's what's going to happen. If it's ham and cheese, that's what you're going to have, right? So it's very specific to your brand, and you have to think about it long term and ask yourself, what are we creating as a business, and how are we going to profit our business long term by creating content that's going to give us the value in exchange over time? So think about the words that you're saying. how you're putting it out there, where you're saying it, and when you're saying it, and it will make a lot of sense. I saw something earlier today and I put it on my repost because Instagram now, I don't know if you know this, but Instagram now allows you to repost. And you can put notes on them, which is really cool too. It just makes your timeline look, or your profile look really good too. And the first thing that I reposted, which was very intentional, is that the first thing I reposted was a long-term classic. It was an interview that was done, and I don't know if it was Bruce Lee, but I'm sure it was. But it was mentioned, and this is what I want you to pay attention to, not even the person, but the message. And I'm paraphrasing. He said that the body does not know the difference between what is good and what is bad. And in terms of words, right? When you say words, words have power. So your body does not know the difference, right? Your body itself does not know the difference. Your mind does, but your body doesn't know the difference. So when you're telling your body and you're speaking to your body, you're charging your body with words. I am this, I am that. Those words that you're saying are going to charge you or discharge you, right? So if you're being charged with the words that you're saying, then that's going to give you a higher frequency, right? And your body is going to adapt to that. But your body does not adapt to that because it does not know the difference if you're not saying it to your advantage, because you're not saying it to your own good. So that's why you think about this in its context. All these things are all into spelling, and that it made a lot of sense. I'm like, wow, that's why it's called spelling. Because when you hear the word a spell, or cast a spell, whatever you're talking about, the words you're saying is creating something for you, right? Because words are powerful. So when you're using these words and you're putting these words out there, why am I emphasizing on words? Because words are what people think, what people say, what people type. It's what people think, it's what people say, it's what people type. If somebody is typing something, it's because they want to say what they're thinking. If they're thinking about what to say before they type. So however you're going to go about it, there's going to be some level of thinking, some level of speaking or saying, and some level of typing or declaring or documenting or stating. So if you want your business to be profitable in 2026 with a podcast, please focus on your words, how you speak, how you respond, what you say, how you say it, when you say it, how much you say it, because those words are going to matter a lot. If I keep saying launching a profitable podcast 50 times, 10 times, however many times, that word is going to keep coming up in the transcript. So if you go to Apple Podcasts and you type in the word launching a podcast, because you've said that word in your podcast show, now somebody's going to get that text. Just like if you're looking for a song that says la 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 la, if any song had that la 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 in it, you're going to get that song because that's what you're looking for, because that's what you're typing. That's what you're trying to sing out. So the same way you're looking for context is so important. People always focus on the title of the episode. Yeah, you can talk about the episode being whatever title, but if the words out of that title in the context is not matching the title and is not being said, launching a profitable podcast marketing masterclass level, if those words are not being vocalized into your actual episode, then that keyword that you're mentioning in the title is almost a waste. It's not a complete waste, but it's almost a waste because it's half in, half out. Why is it half in, half out? Because you've said it in text, but you've not said it in speech. That's why there's something called speech to text. So when you're creating a bridge between the two, you're letting people know that what you're creating is allowing them to feel and connect to what they're thinking. Welcome, Lisa. Welcome, Sinbad. So you're creating these content pieces to let people know about what you're thinking and how you want people to respond back. So if you want to launch a profitable podcast in 2026, focus on your words, number one. Focus on your depth. Depth, in other words, how much are you saying? How much time are you giving? In a week, in a month. I'm going to give 4 hours a month. Okay, that means we're going to give 1 hour a week. If I'm going to give 30 minutes a week, okay, that's 2 hours a month. And that's recording time. So you can either hire an agency. You can hire me. Let me know. Click the link above. You'll get an audit and I'll scan your podcast, scan your website, whatever is online that you have, your social media, and I'll send you a report and I'll tell you this is what is going on. Here are your competitors. Here's where you are. Here's where you could be. Here's what we can do. The ball is in your court. What do you want to do? So I want you to choose because you have the power to choose. But you need information to make that informational value considerable to your power, which is what you need to sustain and retain that information long term. So if you think about your podcast, we've talked about podcast hosting platforms. So you can choose any platform you want. That's fine. But when you start podcasting and submitting your podcast to different podcast stations, your RSS feed, you start publishing your episode and you start publishing it based on topics, based on episodes, based on information, you will start to see that the more you start talking about it, it starts to grow. So the reason why you also have a very high number of words per episode is because if you have a lot of words that you've talked about in a show, your show is 2 hours long, 1 hour long, and you've been saying the same word over and over again, but you've not been saying it redundantly, you've been saying it constructively, and you're saying it sporadically or even in between sentences that is going to give you more of a feedback. Welcome, Pratt. It will allow you to be more specific on how you can give that information back long term. So the whole idea of your podcast is to give value and exchange that value with time. Because the time that people are going to download your episode, listen to your episode, complete it, come back and listen to it, rewind and play it again, that takes dedication. Not everyone listens to podcast episodes throughout. So even if you have 2 downloads, be happy with those 2 downloads because those are 2 people that would have chosen somebody else. So I appreciate each and every one that listens because you could be doing something else. So thank you for listening. I hope this is helping you and giving you insights tonight because I wanted to make sure I can kick off the weekend. I know it's going to be cold in some places. It's going to be icy in some places. And I said, hey, if you want to launch something this weekend, this is the right time to do that. Reach out to me. Send me an email. My email is info@playinc.online. info@playinc.online. Send me an email or just click my face. Go on Clubhouse and you'll be able to send me an email. Or just click on the link above, put in your contacts so you can get emails about topics that I talk about. And then you can now get on a call and we can talk about this on a schedule. So either way, I want you to see this for yourself and I want you to see the potential of getting this done. We can either do it for you or I can show you how to get it done and you have the roadmap. Either way, it's going to be something that you can do for yourself as a business. So it's your time to launch a podcast. It's your time to launch a profitable podcast. And that starts off with how do you position yourself in 2026? If you do that consistently, your marketing is going to be amazing. You'll be able to grow over time because your podcast is also growing over momentum. Just imagine for every episode you drop, you're gaining 100 keywords. By the time you have so much podcast episodes, you're building that over time. And I'm not saying 100 keywords, that's the benchmark or that's the standard. That could happen based on how you're able to do it. So everything is interconnected. If you mention something in your podcast, but you don't put it in the keyword title or the podcast title or the episode title, and it's not there in the episode description, it's not there at all contextually, then no one's going to find it because you said it, but it was not found because it was not found through search. Now, if you said it and you put it in context and you typed it out and somebody matched it, then that's great. Because now I want to launch a podcast. Okay, all right, fine. Launching a profitable podcast is what I want to do today. So how am I going to find that? If I want to do that, I'm going to go to Google and say, how do I launch a profitable podcast? Okay, according to this episode, or according to this citation, or according to this website, this happens. Now that becomes the leading factor for you. And if ChatGPT, Perplexity, Cloud recommends you or your podcast, that's a trust score right there. Because that has also allowed someone to know, okay, if AI trusts you, if Google trusts you, then I can trust you too. That's simply what it means. So the barriers have been cut. The barriers have been lowered. So it allows you to now put yourself in a position where you feel connected to the person that you're connecting with, because you have a podcast that is profitable to them. Why is it profitable? Because they're spending time with you. Profit is surplus, right? It's plus. There's a sur and there's a plus. So you already have what it takes, but you're adding more to it. Welcome, Ifeanyi and Zaria. So you have to think about your business and ask yourself, where are we going in 2026? What are we doing in 2026? And how are we building it to that capacity that's going to allow us to build over time? So ask yourself this question and say, where are we doing 2026? Are we doing it this way? Are we creating more content? Or are we doing it in a way that's going to be based on how we want it to look long term? So ask yourself where you want to be in 2026 and use that podcast to your advantage, but also use it to the advantage of the listener, so that the person listening doesn't feel like they have to go to another episode or another show to get the same information you could have given. You want to satisfy your listener to the point where when they're going to another show, they're going more knowledgeable than they left, or than they even came to begin with. Because if they came a novice and they left an expert, or they left knowledgeable, then you've given the next person the ability to have a better version of them, because you've given them first. But guess what? You get first dibs, because they're going to come back to you because you're the one that gave them the information first. So that trust score has gone up. And now you have a reference score. It's kind of like you do business with someone, you do well, they refer you to somebody else. Just because the person was referred to you is because of the person you worked with first. So the person's going to trust the person that was referred to because that's their source. You're the resource. And now your resource is a trust because the source that they came from is a trusted source. So if you really think about it long term, and you have a podcast and the source is your website, but the resource is coming from Apple or Spotify, then it's a win-win. So I hope I've really battered this down so you can hear this. It's 12 midnight Central, and I'm so glad that I was able to really put this out to you tonight. So with that said, thank you so much for listening. I hope this has given you insights and information that you can learn about different things. There's so many topics that I'm going to be coming here to talk to you about. They're already in the pipeline, like Pinterest, SEO, podcast tips. I'll be here talking about those specific things, and I'll be here talking through podcast business tools, best marketing business practices, LinkedIn best practices, email optimization, digital marketing for Shopify, search queries, keyword marketing map, app store monetization, marketing hacks for creatives, launching a profitable podcast, which is what we're doing right now, email marketing strategies, Shopify for entrepreneurs, high converting emails versus low converting emails, podcasting post-production, Pinterest email growth. These are topics that are going to be coming to you strong. I'm just giving you a couple of them. But these episodes, these topics are going to be very, very important because I want you to learn these things and do them for yourselves. Some people listen to them and they're like, okay, but at the end of the day, what's working for you will work for you. So I hope this gives you insight and gives you more information. And thank you so much for listening. Thank you, Ms. Sharp, for being here. And thank you so much, Sam, for being here. And I hope you have a wonderful evening, a blessed evening. Stay warm, stay hydrated, stay wherever you are. Stay blessed, And I look forward to connecting with you soon as well. Piper, thank you for being here. If you have any question, please feel free to click the link above and sign up. Also, save this replay. This is a marketing club. I'll be doing a lot of rooms like this for you, and I'm always here to connect. We're actually about to hit 353,000 members in this marketing club. So I love that we're here to talk about these things. So if you want to listen to my podcast, go to wedon'tplaypodcast.com, wherever you're listening to your podcast, and check out the podcast show. Over 600 episodes, 7 years in 160 countries, 12 seasons, and we're still going strong. I've been on this app on Clubhouse for 6 years this November. So it's very exciting to be here and meet amazing people like you. So feel free to click the link above if you need your SEO audit, if you need your business taken care of, if you need to refer us to someone that needs help, if you need training, consultation, the floor is yours. The ball is in your court. So thank you so much for listening. I hope you have a blessed and wonderful evening, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next amazing room that we're going to have very soon. Signing out. Take care and enjoy your weekend. If you have reached this point of the episode, I just want to say thank you so much for listening to the We Don't Play podcast show. I hope this has helped you, given you some insight, because every time I come on here, or anytime I bring somebody on here, a guest, a speaker, anyone that is of relevance to you listening is always going to give you educational value, definitely entertainment value, and most importantly, empowerment value. So thank you for listening to the We Don't Play podcast show every day. And if you want to reach out to me, you know where to find me. Click the links in the description, or go to info@playinc.online, info@playinc.online, and book a call. Let's talk. Let's have a conversation. Let's talk SEO. Let's talk marketing. Let's talk business. Let's talk scaling. And I look forward to meeting you and learning more about you and your business. Till we meet in the next episode, have a blessed evening. Have a blessed day, night, wherever you are in the world. And I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Bye for now. And don't forget, Jesus loves you.